In this lesson, you'll learn how calculated columns work in Power BI using DAX. We'll create new columns like revenue, cost, and profit, pull data from related tables using related function, and understand when calculation should be done in DAX versus Power Query when building a data model. Let's dive in. Before we start, let me know if you have any questions from what we have already covered or any other questions around data modeling which is still not resolved in your mind. I think yesterday when we were having some question and answers, I said, I think it was Kushal and Usman, that once we have gone past this lunch break, and if your questions are still not answered, I might be in a position to provide a better response to it. So please shout out if the same question is still valid or you have got an answer to those questions. That's good to know. All right, that's awesome. Let's see. So if I go back, we have touched on few things before the break. We have seen how do you deal with multiple fact tables, right? How can you connect multiple fact tables with common dimension table, and it allows you to perform an analysis across multiple facts. And that is really powerful because you can start to see cause and effect, right? When you do a marketing campaign, how does it affect the sales? When you improve your inventory management, how does it affect the revenue? So you can see cause and effect, which is very difficult to measure in a lot of cases where different departments are working in silos. You will also realize that when you get hold of or when you can create like good dimension tables in the business, in your business, you will have some dimension tables. When you create them properly one time, you can start to reuse them again and again. Your dimension table remains very constant across multiple analysis, right? And that is where you can really help out other data modelers and other report authors. I can create a really good calendar table which has all the relevant columns for my business needs, and then I can make it available for the report developers or data modelers. I can create a really solid, rich, fat client table or employee table, and I can make it available, right? Because your transaction tables change, but a lot of the columns in the dimension table remains constant. Um, so worth considering if you can create these dimension tables and make it accessible either via SQL Server. You can also do it within Power BI ecosystem using Dataflows. Now, I don't want to divert, but I want you to do a little bit more research on Dataflows too. You can create these dimension tables and make it accessible for the people who are doing Power BI development using Dataflows. An easy way to conceptualize data flow is Power Query in the cloud. You know, the data transformation that we did in the desktop, if you can do it in the cloud and you can just make it accessible like a clean dimension table, they can just connect it. They can just make a connection through a Power BI dataset or a data flow. We have also seen many-to-many relationship. How can you make it work? Why does it happen? It happens if you are connecting two different facts and both are recorded at a different grain, then of course you're going to have a many-to-many relationship and it's fine. And how can this little direction have an effect? So we actually see quite a lot of things around data modeling, like small detail, but the best way, in my opinion, to just really understand the nuances of the data modeling is you make deliberate mistake and you see the output on the report. Then you go back and change something in the model, you see the output again. So just by changing back and forth, you can see and understand what is really going on, what is the output and why the output is coming out in a certain way. This will really help you understand these little details of a data model. Let's have a look at one more data modeling challenge, which is role-playing dimensions, right? Let's have a look here. Your dimensions can play multiple roles. Date is a common dimension that can play multiple roles. In our case, my date is playing two roles, of an order date and of a ship date. What if I want to see month-on-month sales? Let's actually create month-on-month sales first. I go back to my Power BI data model. I go to my data set, which is my sales table. As you can see, I don't really have a sales column. I don't have a revenue column. So first, I will have to create a calculation. And for that, I can create a calculated column. I can do a right click, new column, make sure you are inside your sales table. I'm creating a sales column because the calculation does not exist. In terms of our data cycle, we are doing data enrichment. I'm using existing data to create more data. So it will be unit, it will be price multiplied by quantity, and this gives me revenue. Oh, my bad, I made a mistake. Okay. Correct? You have your revenue column. Make sure you don't have any filter applied, right? I'm just going to clear all the filter if a filter is applied. Okay, that's your revenue. Another good practice that you can consider as soon as you create a numeric column, just do formatting of the column right away. Normally, I would just put like a 1 here. That when I use revenue column in a visual, I only want to see one decimal point. And then if you're using dollar, dollar is a default currency symbol, so that works out perfectly. And you have your revenue. Let's create some more calculations. How can I create a profit column? To create a profit column, you need cost of goods sold column as well, correct? Cost of goods sold. To calculate cost of goods sold, you need you need quantity, but you also need product cost, which is actually inside product table, right? You actually need product cost and and quantity to calculate cost of goods sold. Once you can have cost of goods sold, then you can also create gross profit column. Product cost is coming from another data set. Let's see how do we do it. Right click, new column. I want you to notice this. When you will search cost, it will not appear. See this little pop-up? What do you call this? This is your IntelliSense pop-up. It does not give you the option to pick product cost. What is what is Power Query equivalent of VLOOKUP? Who was it? I could not hear you.
Merge,
Merge, correct? There is also a DAX equivalent of VLOOKUP.
lookup.
Anyone? Lookup value, but there is an easy version which is related. As soon as you use this function related, it allows you to access a related column from other data sets. So let's see. I use related. As soon as I do it, it gives me this box and I can pick product cost. I would highly discourage you from typing the entire name yourself. Just pick it up from the list because when you type it, you make a typo error and it does not work. And then multiply, and then you press enter, and you can actually see that the product cost is is pulled inside your sales table. And then you do a multiply, quantity, that's your cost of goods sold. And then I can also format it. You have to let me know if I'm going too fast, right? I'm also pasting a formula inside your chat. Yes, Nick, go on.
Just how do you decide whether to do this at this stage or within Power Query, or it doesn't really matter?
For Power Query, you can actually do it. So you're asking about the revenue column?
Yeah, so adding these, calculation columns,
Hmm.
do you do it as part of Power Query or now, or it's irrelevant?
It's actually a good question. You can create a column either in Power Query or either in DAX. In Power Query, all you will be limited by your ability to create complex columns though, because Power Query is not something that will come very natural to you. So if you have to create some complex logic, you might not be able to do it in Power Query, although it is possible to create a column in Power Query. So DAX,
Okay.
because it is very similar to Excel, right? A lot of functions are Excel functions. You can use if, you can use a lot of other functions. So it becomes an easier transition for someone who comes from an Excel background.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. If you have to create a distinction, M and DAX, these are the two languages. Your strength of M is to automate data transformation, although it can help you create some basic calculations, correct? But the strength of DAX is to build logic, is to build calculation. And if you want, it can help you do something that your Power Query can also do. Although there is an overlap, but if you just have to understand the strength of a language, strength of M is to automate data transformation like a macro, and strength of DAX is to build logic and calculation like Excel functions. Does it have? And then I can create a profit column. Right click, new column. I can go revenue minus COGS, enter. That's a profit column. And I can also put a 1. Let me know if 3 columns are working and your functions are, no problem creating the columns. Just give me a thumbs up. And then I would like to touch a little bit on DAX measures too. Okay. All right. Thank you. So these are your calculated columns, correct? They get physically calculated within the data set, and you can even see the icons here. The icons are different for a calculated column. And these icons kind of keep on changing all the time based on different versions of Power BI. So if you're in a different version, you might have a little bit of a different icon, but you have a very obvious icon for a calculated column. All of these columns are your numeric columns, correct? And when I will use these columns in a report, I want to aggregate the columns, which is I want to see total revenue, I want to see total cost of goods sold, total profit, right? And then I might want to break it down by client or product, so on and so forth. In majority of the cases, the better way of creating a numeric calculation is not a column. But as an Excel user, you will naturally gravitate towards a column because you will be limited by your capability of creating a measure. Just know that this might not be the optimal way of creating some of the calculations. And once you go through the DAX course, which primarily deals with the measure component, and we discuss quite a lot of functions that you can use within a measure, just know that is the best way to go with a calculation. But until then, a column is fine. That is how people normally start creating the calculations in Power BI.